got my hand on a Nikon D70, a 20-year-old DSLR camera released in 2004, or almost 20 years old. And I wondered, would you still buy a DSLR 20 years old in 2023? And I came down to the conclusion that camera gear does not matter. Camera gear definitely makes your life easier. Having a fast, modern camera, a modern mirrorless camera, makes your life definitely easier. However, you can get with a 20-year-old camera still in 2023 fantastic images. And in this video I'm going to give you my 5 tips how you can get with any sort of camera fantastic, good looking photographs. First thing you need to consider: what sort of camera do you have and what are the limitations of a camera. As an example, the Nikon D70 is combined with the Nikon kit lens, the 18-70 3.5 to 4.5. No in-lens stabilization, so you need to keep your shutter speed at least above 1/100th of a second if possible to get a nice sharp image. Knowing your limitation of your camera will definitely help you create better images. It doesn't matter if it's a 3.5 aperture or a 4.5 aperture, it won't give you the same look like a fast prime lens. So you need to keep this in mind when taking photographs and making sure that perhaps your model stands further away from a background to create more space between the model and a background to get more background blur with the smaller aperture. So know your limitation of your camera. The second point, what you definitely should do with any sort of camera, or at least in my personal opinion, there are 2 things you should do. First of all, try to shoot RAW and JPEG. So you got a RAW file with 100% flexibility when it comes down to the pose, and you get a maximum out of your camera when it comes down to quality and dynamic range from an image. Having a second setup or second backup as a JPEG, which you could use straight away to send off to friends and family, is fantastic, but definitely try to shoot JPEG and RAW together, so you got one image processed in a camera and a second image, the RAW file, you can do later in post if you're ready and you know what you do in Capture One, Lightroom, and you got the flexibility to edit the image how you would like to have it. But then again, keep in mind, depends on your camera, there are limitations. This Nikon D70 does not got the dynamic range, the flexibility in post like a Sony Alpha 7 Mark IV as an example. So keep this in mind when you process your RAW files from a 20-year-old camera as an example. There will be still some sort of limitation, but it still gives you more flexibility, the RAW file, than a JPEG. Point number 3 will be definitely what time of the day you planning to shoot. Sunrise or sunset is always better than midday sun, where the sun is the strongest, the harshest, and gives you the harshest shadows. So definitely consider your surroundings and also the time of the day when you're planning on shooting. Sunrise and sunset gives you always better looking images than midday sunlight, which is quite harsh. However, you also can create fantastic images on the middle of the day when harsh sunlight is, if you're going for a crazy black and white image with high contrast, high or bright highlights. So definitely keep in mind what sort of daytime you want to shoot. Sunset, sunrise, midday, every single time of the day will give you a different result in image. One of the biggest wishes when you start out doing photography is a fast prime lens. A f1.8, f1.4, f1.2, it needs to be a fast prime lens. But this is not 100% correct. You can create fantastic images on a f3.5, f4, f5.6, even if you are outdoors. Sometimes closing down your aperture will benefit your image. It will create better sharpness, it will create better contrast, and an overall better pleasing looking image. Sometimes you want to have the background more in focus to tell a story with your image, and sometimes you just want to blur out the background so that you can't see anything behind you. It really depends again on a subject you're photographing. If you take a nice headshot outside in the daytime, then of course you want the background to be as blurry as possible most of the times, because the person you photographing is the attraction of the photograph. But sometimes if you shoot, let's say, a skater girl in a skate park, you want a bit more of the surroundings because you want to tell a story, you want to show off what's going around her or what's going around in the image or what's happening around in the image, and you want to tell a story with that. So a fast prime or fast aperture is not always the way to go. Sometimes you need to close down your aperture to get a better image, better sharpness, more contrast, and the overall better pleasing looking image, because you're gonna tell more of a story in your photograph. And last but not least would be point number 5, is the after editing process. If you shoot RAW and you're using Lightroom, Capture One, Affinity Photo, Lumina Neo, it doesn't really matter what sort of program you use, definitely do some after editing. And when you shoot RAW, or if you shot RAW, then you got the flexibility to give the image the final touch you would like to give the image. You can create an image what is pleasing looking for you. You can change the colors a bit. You don't even need to worry too much about the white balance within a camera. You can technically fix it in post, and this is a sentence no one likes to hear: fix it in post. So ideally get it straight right in camera. However, certain adjustments you still can do afterwards in post if you shot RAW and you got the full flexibility of the photos. So overall saying, those are 5 simple, easy tips how you can create with any single camera fantastic looking photographs. If you just own a kit lens, as example the 18-70 3.5 to 4.5, and you want to create as much background blur as possible, then zoom out to 70mm. Open your aperture up as far as you can, in this case 4.5, go as close to the subject as possible and take a photograph, and this will create the best, most bokeh you can create with this lens. And with that said, guys, I hope you liked this video today and those 5 tips being helpful to you. If you got further questions, let me know down in the comments, and if you would like to see more stuff like this with like budget gear and all sort of similar things, let me know in the comments as well. And with that said, like, comment, subscribe, do all the good stuff, and I'm gonna see you, my friend, very soon in another video. Cheers, mate.